Moscow confirms it has captured Liman, a strategic city in eastern Ukraine, while Russia tests new hypersonic missiles.
Russian President Vladimir Putin says he is ready to find ways to ensure the export of Ukrainian grain that is trapped in the country due to the war.
Shanghai's housebound residents challenged the local enforcers of China's strict coronavirus restrictions as infections drop. Ruben Östlund wins the Palme d'Or at the 75th Cannes Film Festival for his satire Triangle of Sadness, his second award in 5 years. Liman is now in the hands of Russia. Moscow made the announcement on Saturday and insists it now has total control of the strategic city in eastern Ukraine. As the gateway to major cities such as Slovensk and Kramatorsk, this railway hub would give Moscow greater access to the Donbass region. Russia's defence spokesperson Igor Konashenkov says the city was completely liberated from Ukrainian nationalists. Officials in Kyiv have yet to verify the Kremlin's claims. However, Ukraine's military says Russian forces have intensified their offence in the eastern Donbass region as they try to take control of key settlements. Alexander Stopin, a spokesperson for the Ukrainian armed forces, says in the Donetsk direction the enemy is conducting active offensive operations. In the direction of Liman, the enemy is using explosives and multiple rocket launchers to target Ozernoye and Dibrova, and is also launching airstrikes. Russia's Admiral Gorshkov successfully test-fired a new Zircon hypersonic missile at a target in the White Sea. President Vladimir Putin has described the move as part of a new generation of unrivalled arms systems.
The Kremlin says Russian President Vladimir Putin has expressed his readiness to find ways to export grain from Ukraine during a telephone conversation with French President Emmanuel Macron and German Chancellor Olaf Scholz. A press statement from the presidential office stated that the Russian leader also confirmed the country's willingness to renew dialogue. The port of Mariupol resumed operations Saturday morning after Russian forces said they finished clearing mines and removed sunken ships from the waters off of the city. A vessel bound for the southern Russian city of Rostov-on-Don entered Mariupol's seaport on the Azov Sea in the early hours of Saturday. The ships of the Novorossiysk naval base of the Black Sea Fleet ensured the safe passage of a merchant ship to the port of Mariupol. At the moment, the loading has begun. However, Ukrainian authorities say that civilian navigation of the Azov and Black Seas remain blocked. Kees Huizinga, a Dutch farmer in Ukraine, is calling for a solution to allow exports through.
The only thing we need is to open the Black Sea ports and to kick out the Russians so we can continue our work here. And all the other things, transport by road or transport by train through Europe, that's a drop in the ocean. The Black Sea ports, they export 80–90% of Ukraine's grain.
According to him, Ukraine still has nearly a third of last year's harvest in the stocks, partly in the harbors, and a lot still in the barns of farmers. Since the war in Ukraine began, the food supply chains have been disrupted globally, threatening the world with significant food shortages. It's been weeks since Busha was under Russian control, but the city is still reeling from the war. Dr. Ihor Kovalchuk and Dr. Yevhen Repyov recount life in Busha during the fighting, under Russian occupation, and the flood of patients they received in that time. All patients were in serious condition because the logistics did not work. The occupiers did not allow the wounded to be taken away. Those who could walk by themselves reached the hospital. Many were left without medical care. Many people called us and asked, "What do I do? I've got a torn leg. I'm sitting in the basement in Vorzel or Hostomel." After the Russians arrived, the doctors were required to wear a white bandage in order to leave the hospital, and only during daylight hours and on foot. They were warned that a vehicle, even an ambulance, could come under fire. Dr. Kovalchuk decided to remain. I had the opportunity to leave here when the Russians were on the outskirts of Busha, when the war was just beginning. I had this opportunity even before they came here, but I didn't take it. I knew I had to be here, that I had to help people. So I was here until the end. As it happened, until the 10th of March. Of course, I couldn't have done otherwise. All of the doctors and patients at the Irpin City Hospital were evacuated between the 10th and 11th of March. When they returned, their workplace was significantly damaged.
For Sweden and Finland, accession to NATO is proving to be bumpier than expected. Turkey's veto has been a stumbling block, despite the two nations meeting all formal entry requirements. The US Secretary of State has met the Finnish Foreign Minister in a clear sign of support.
Finland and Sweden are working directly with Turkey to address some of the concerns that it raised. We're also talking to Turkey. I saw the Turkish Foreign Minister in New York about a week ago, and those conversations continue. I don't want to characterize the conversations beyond saying that, first, there is a very strong consensus in NATO for the admission of Finland and Sweden, and I remain confident that we will work through this process swiftly and that things will move forward with both countries.
The leaders say discussions will continue, with an eye towards resolving them before the NATO summit in Madrid next month.
Shanghai has been under strict lockdown for 2 months. China has operated a zero-tolerance COVID-19 policy since the pandemic began. While cases are in rapid decline, the city's 21 million inhabitants are now living in precaution zones. In theory, residents are free to leave their homes, but only at the discretion of their neighbourhood committees. A grassroots organisation the ruling Communist Party relies on to enforce coronavirus restrictions. Authorities have promised to ease restrictions in June, but some frustrated residents have confronted their local watchdogs. In many parts of the city, only one person per household is allowed out for essential reasons. While in other communities, members say their governing representatives have refused to allow them out at all. While criticism of China's hard line on the virus continues to grow, many restaurants and non-essential businesses remain closed.
Okay.
And the winner is Ruben Östlund for Triangle of Sadness. After 2 weeks of glitz, glamour and cinema on the French Riviera, the Swedish filmmaker has won the coveted Palme d'Or. It's the second time the 48-year-old has taken home the top prize at the Cannes Film Festival in 5 years. Described as the most entertaining picture in the competition, this English-language satire, starring 3-time Academy Award nominee Woody Harrelson, tells a story of the super-rich aboard a luxury yacht.
Dr. Mark de Crowley has helped more than 100 patients die. He is one of several doctors in Belgium who help people end their lives at home, under a right-to-die law adopted 20 years ago. Since then, the practice of euthanasia, once furiously debated, has become more commonplace.
Several eminent members, at least from the Catholic universities, have taken a stand and have expressed the idea that a law could be humanistic, even if it went against certain rules of the Church, which perhaps no longer correspond completely to today's society.
Belgian photographer Catherine Romboots took this picture of her mother 3 hours before she was euthanized.
What's emotional for me is that the image I have of my mother is a beautiful one. The image of a feisty woman who will go towards her destiny, but who is not a victim. We have the right conditions in any case, and I would sincerely like other countries to follow Belgium's lead.
Active euthanasia, also called assisted suicide, is currently legal in 3 European countries. More than a dozen others allow terminal patients to stop treatment. Euthanasia is explicitly prohibited in 6 countries, including Italy. In all 3 countries where euthanasia is legal, it must be done only in cases where it will end unbearable suffering. In 2021, Belgium recorded 2,700 cases, representing 2.4% of total deaths.